Good day everyone! For today's video, we will going to discuss a new topic. But before that, let me introduce first myself. I am Apple May Sobrera and I am a Bachelor of Elementary Education at Stratford International School, and now I am in 3rd year level. So for today's discussion, I am going to discuss to you about constructive alignment. So if you are ready, then let's proceed. What is constructive alignment? Constructive alignment is a design for teaching in which what it is intended student should learn and how they should express their learning is clearly stated before teaching takes place. So this design, which is constructive alignment, this is a design which teacher used to teach the students of what the student needs to learn, and this teach them how to express their learnings, how to share their ideas, how to share their opinions or learning that they have learned inside or outside of the class before the teacher will give or discuss the main lesson for that class session. So that is constructive alignment is. So before we go further to our lesson, which is constructive alignment, let's discuss first the student learning outcome. So we have 3 student learning outcome, and each student learning outcome has a supporting student activity. So let's understand first what is student learning outcome. Student learning outcome are statements that specify what student will know, be able to do, or be able to demonstrate when they have completed or participated in a course or program. So student learning outcome specify an action by the student that must be observable, measurable, and be able to be demonstrated. So that is student learning outcome means. So let's proceed to student learning outcome number 1. Student learning outcome number 1. Student can organize information from secondary sources as basis of research topic. So this student is illiterate on reading because he knows how to organize, how to differentiate information, how to organize information from secondary sources. So example of these secondary sources is publications such as textbooks, magazine articles, book reviews, commentaries, encyclopedias, and almanacs. So that is the example of secondary sources. So we have a supporting student activity here. So first, practice differentiating source materials and one's opinion. So to enable students know how to organize information, students should practice differentiating source materials and one's opinion. For example, the topic is about existentialism. So the given sources here is the book of encyclopedia and a statement from one philosopher. So existentialism for encyclopedia book is existentialism derives from the principle that human behavior is based on nothing except free choice. But according to one philosopher, according to Kierkegaard, a philosopher, existentialism is a form of philosophical inquiry that explores the problem of human existence. So we use 2 sources, secondary sources here, the encyclopedia and a philosopher. So they have a different explanation about existentialism. So in first activity, supporting activity here in student learning outcome, students should practice differentiating source, materials, and one's opinion. So the student need to practice accepting or respect the other statement of different sources. So which is by agree of what the statement that given or stated in a secondary sources or the source that the student use. So that is for practice differentiating source materials and one's opinion. Next, number 2, reading articles and formulating an original paragraph. So by this, student needs to be literate in reading. Of course, when student is illiterate in reading, so he can organize information, he knows how to formulate his or her ideas, and by reading more articles, stories, or other poems or other books, student can formulate his or her own information, ideas. So by reading articles and other sources, that student should also practice how to formulate her idea by writing it in a paragraph or in his original word. So that is for reading articles and formulating an original paragraph. Next is writing an essay to develop the topic. Of course, when we are reading, or of course, if the student read an article, he or she need to understand what it is all about, or what the student need to understand what he read all about. So by that, students should practice writing an essay to develop the topic. She need to write it, the ideas that he have learned, the statement that she get on that statement, or she get in that topic, she get on that in that book or in that article. He practiced to write it, to develop and to formulate another and many ideas that he get or what he learned to that books or to that topic. The next is integrating bibliographic entries in appropriate format. So what is this bibliographic format? So when the student learn, while the student are learning, also the student needs to learn how to recognize the book, not only the content of the book, but also the author's name of the book, the title of the publication of the book, also the date of publication, the place of publication also, that is important, the publishing company of a book, of course, and the volume number of that book, and also the pages of that book, of how many pages that book has. So that is all about, that is the 4 activities that should student to practice for that student can organize information, different sources, secondary sources. Next, student learning outcome number 2. Student apply principles of logical thinking and persuasive argument in writing. So in this student learning outcome number 2, student must apply their logical thinking skills when they are writing. So in logical thinking, or this logical thinking requires several reasoning skills and the ability to look at a situation objectively and work towards a solution based on the fact at hand. So uh, to use for them to create or to formulate a strong idea that the student may include in their writing, they must use their critical thinking skills to include many reasons to support that certain topic that they are writing about. So also, student must use their persuasive argument in writing. So when we say persuasive argument, it is a idea in which you are agreed of what the topic is all about, or you are agreeing in a topic that you have listened or you have read in the book, something like that. So that is for student learning outcome number 2. So let's proceed to the supporting student activity and the student learning activity number 2. So first, forming opinion about the topic. Of course, if you've done read about the topic or you have just listened about the topic, then you are freely to form your opinion about the topic, to widen your ideas, to add some ideas in your mind that about that topic. So that is forming opinion about the topic. Then next is researching and writing about a variety of perspective. When we say researching, you need student must practice to find new ideas, new information about a certain topic to add and to support the idea more and to understand that topic more. For that student must understand what is the topic all about. So that is researching and writing about a variety of perspective. The next, adapting style to the identified audience. So adapting style. So when we say adapting style, that student must must open to adapt, must open to accept ideas of the other opinions by their classmates, by their teachers. So the student must practice that kind of attitude that that student respect what is the idea of their other classmates. So that is adapting style to the identified audience. Next is last, employing clear argument in writing. So when I said earlier, in writing, so you need to write an argument, or you need to include in your writing, when you are writing, that it must be clear and it must be believable and reliable. So employing clear argument, when you say clear argument, it is clear. It is not don't use many flowery words in your writing. You must go into direct point for the readers can understand what are you want to say, or what is that topic or that writing want to say or want to deliver. So that is the four student activity, supporting student activity. Then now let's proceed to student learning outcome number 3. Student write multiple page essays complying with standards, format, and style. So in writing an essay, there's a format to be followed. So the student must practice, and the student must develop this kind of skills in writing or in formulating essays. So they need to follow this format. So in writing essay, there's a basic part, or basic essay consists of three main parts. So we have introduction, second is the body, and the last is conclusion. So first, what is introduction? So your goal in introduction, you have a important responsibility in writing your introduction. So first, your goal as a student in writing an essay is to get the audience attention. So in first sentence in your introduction, you must get the attention of the audience for them to continue reading your ideas or your story or your statement. So you need in first first statement in your introduction, it must important that your idea there is catch the attention of the audience. So second, introduce the topic. What is your topic? What is you want to talk about, or you want to give the information about? So you need to introduce the topic. Then third, explain its relevant to the audience. So what is the importance, what is the relevant of that topic? So you need to introduce that you need to include that in your introduction, so that the readers or the listener must encourage or must push them to read more or to continue read the statement or your context. The next, state a thesis or purpose and outline the main points. So in this, when you are writing in an essay, you need to include also what is the purpose of that writing an essay. So what is your purpose? And then you need to include some outline for them to know what is the content of your essay. So that is for introduction. Let's go for the body. So the body, we have in writing an essay where you fully develop your argument. So in this part of writing an essay, this is the part when you are fully develop your argument. So you may use reference of the book to make your ideas strong, and you must elaborate more your idea that you included or you mentioned in your introduction. So you include all of your ideas in this part, the body. So last is the conclusion. So in conclusion, it should reaffirm your answer to the question. So you need to reaffirm. It means you need to answer the question. You need to relate the answer to the question in the whole idea that you created, and briefly summarize key supporting argument you discussed throughout the work. So in conclusion, you also need to summarize. You must briefly summarize what is that study or that essay talking about. So it does not include any point or any information. Don't make or don't change in summarizing your essay, don't change the idea, don't change the topic. So you need all you need to do is to summarize what all about you're talking about in the part of the body. So this may this may the reader know that you understood and answered the question. So by summarizing, the readers will measure you as a writer if you fully understand or you fully answer the question in that topic. So that is for supporting that is for student learning outcome number 3. So to enable student practice this writing multiple page essay using the standards format and style. So there's a supporting activity here. So we have a 5 student supporting activity. So first, analyzing and evaluating text. So the student must know, must practice, must develop how to analyze and how to evaluate text that they may include in their essay, so that the ideas in the whole essay is good and reliable. So they need to analyze first, what is that idea? Is it good to include in this topic or not? So they need to analyze it first. Second, so writing about a variety of perspective on single topic. So when a student is writing a topic, they must practice and develop their skills on how to write or focus in a single topic to avoid the readers confused about what is that topic talking about. So that is writing about a variety of perspective on single topic. Student must develop their skills, must practice how to write their ideas or how to formulate ideas in just a single topic. Next is we have adapting tone and style to address one's audience. So whenever the student communicate with an audience, that student should be measuring and assessing the reaction. So that student should teach them how to be aware of their actions when they are communicating, when they are adapting action gestures of the other people towards them to catch their attention. So they need to be aware of their actions when they are communicating other people. So that is the third supporting student activity. So fourth is reviewing grammar and essay format in reading. So after that student write that certain topic or formulate his or her own idea about that certain topic, student must review the grammar, must recheck the essay that he formulate. He must review if there's a wrong grammar that he created or that she created in that essay. And then he also be aware in the format that the student use in writing an essay to avoid confused by the reader or to avoid recheck by the teacher, so that the student can develop or can widen her idea in writing an essay and formulating a good grammar. So lastly, holding group discussion about various topics. So student must expose in a group discussion so that he can interact with other people, and he can adapt more and different opinions from other people, so that his idea can be widened also, because a lot of different perspective, a lot of different uh, ideas he will get, so that that student will learn more about that various topic. So that is all about the three student learning outcome, and you already know what is the student learning outcome, and you have the guide also what are the student activity to get or to catch that student learning outcome that we have discussed, the three student learning outcome. So that's all for student learning outcomes. So I have here outcome assessment in the instructional cycle. So I have flashed on the screen the instructional cycle. As a teacher and student work towards the achievement of curriculum outcomes, assessment plays a constant role in informing instruction, guiding the student next steps, and checking progress and achievement. So this instructional cycle may help the teacher how they can guide the student step by step for the student to come up with a certain topic or for the discussion that the teacher will give them. And also this instructional cycle will help the student to learn step by step, and then avoid them confuse the process of teaching by of their teacher. So as you can see, we have the first one, institutional mission vision. So what is this institutional mission vision? So this is a statement provide constituency, students, faculty, legislator, or other facilitators or other employee of the school, part of the school, with the institution's educational goal and guidance concerning the achievement of this goal. So this institutional mission vision, this is the goal and wanted of the school for the student after they completed the course or the program. So what is the mission of the school? So it is important also to introduce the mission vision of the school to the student for them to know what the school can offer to them, or what the school can teach, or can set the goal for the student, for them to learn more about that school or about the teaching strategies of the teachers in that institution. So what is the mission of the school for the student, and for the vision, what that school can offer, what is this that institution wanted to be for the student after they completed the course or the program they chosen. So that is institutional mission vision. Next, we have program goal. What is this program goal? It's a general statement about the expected learning outcome of student completing a program. So this program goal, this is a goal, a set of goal of that institution for the student to learn and for the teacher to teach, for the student to learn more about or by following the curriculum of that school. So that is program goal. And then we have subject objective. What is this? A subject objective are brief statement that describe what student will be expected to learn by the end of school year, course, unit, lesson, project, or class discussion. So we all know that before the teacher will start the discussion that he will prepare in that class session, he introduced first or she introduced first the objective of that class. So the teacher prepared the three objectives. So that objective will leads the student what will they do uh, during their class session or their class discussion. That is subject objective. Next in the instructional cycle is the desired student learning outcome. So these learning outcomes are statements that describe significant and essential learning that the learners have achieved and can reliably demonstrate at the end of a course or program. So this learning outcome allows an instructor to break down complex processes into their component parts and have student practice these discrete tasks and eventually consolidate these parts as a whole, like critical writing, problem solving using models, and problem solving any situation. So that is desired student learning outcome. Then next, the fifth one was diagnostic assessment. So diagnostic assessment is an essential device in a teacher's toolkit. It can be used to diagnose strengths and areas of needs in all students. So diagnostic assessment is a form of pre-assessment where teacher can evaluate students' strengths, of course, weaknesses, knowledge, and skills before their instruction. So in this diagnostic assessment, the student will be measured according to their knowledge, skills, and ability, so that the teacher will know how the thinking capacity or the skills of a student has good or not that kind of good. Then next we have deciding on lesson focus. So this is the time when the teacher is demonstrating, modeling, and sharing his or her thinking with student. So in this deciding on lesson focus, this is the time when the teacher is teaching, delivering instruction, delivering the lesson. So this is the time when the teacher demonstrate the lesson inside or outside of their class. And also this is the time when the teacher is giving the instructions to their students. So that is deciding on lesson focus. Then next, we have supporting student activities. So earlier, we discussed about supporting student activity in each student learning outcome. So as I discussed earlier, students apply principles of logical thinking and persuasive argument in writing. So for the student to include in the essay or write or formulate an essay, they must use or they must practice their critical thinking to include strong ideas in their writing or their essay writing. That is supporting student activity. Then next, we have formative assessment of students. So formative assessment refers to a wide variety of methods that teacher use to conduct in-process evaluation of student comprehension, learning needs, and academic during a lesson, unit, or course. So in this formative assessment of student, so the teacher use pre-test assessment. So the teacher ask some questions to the student to measure and to see if the student can understand or really understand what the lesson has discussed by the teacher. So that is formative assessment of students. So by this, the teacher will know if that student will be assessed again or it's good for not to assist. Okay, and next we have review and reteach. So when we say review, going back to the discussion that discussed by the teacher, and reteach again what the teacher had discussed. So examine or assess something formally with the possibility or intention in instituting change if necessary. So there are some students that can't really understand what the teacher are teaching or wants to deliver inside of the class. So that's why we have a formative assessments to know if the student really understand or really had learned from the discussion. So that's why if the formative assessment result is not good for that student, then that's the time that the teacher will review his or her discussion or reteach it again. Next, we have mastery learning. Mastery learning is a method of instruction where the focus is on the role in feedback in learning. So this is the time when the teacher is giving feedback, giving feedback to those students who had learned from the discussion. So if the teacher will ask some questions about their discussion, then the student will answer and give their learning, give their ideas or opinion about what they have learned, what they have understand about their discussion. So that's the time that the teacher will give feedback to that student as a reward of their learnings and understanding about the lesson. So next we have summative assessment of outcome. This refers to the assessment of participant where the focus is on the outcome of program. So this summative assessment of outcome, this is the time that the learning that the teacher wants to deliver, that the teacher wants to learn for the student has been reached or has been provided. So as you can see in the instructional cycle, summative assessment of outcome has arrow going to the program goal and to subject objective. It is because summative assessment of outcome reach the goal of program goals and subject objective. As we discussed earlier, subject objective is the goal of a teacher in a class, or the learnings, the discussion that the teacher wants to deliver during the class session. So this summative assessment of outcome reach the goal, which is the program goals and the subject objective. So that is for instructional cycle. That is all the process of instructional cycle. So let's go back to our main lesson for this discussion, which is the constructive alignment. So as stated in the book by John Biggs of 2007, constructive alignment is based on the constructive theory that learners use their own activity to construct their knowledge or other outcomes. So as stated here, John Biggs says that in order to student learn what they need to learn, they construct or they formulate their own ideas. They learn new knowledge by their own activities. So constructive alignment starts with the notion that the learners construct his or her own learning through relevant learning activity. So the student learn not just by listening by the teacher, but also in performing or uh, exposing in the activity that the teacher provided in the class, outside or inside of the class. So in constructive alignment, there are illustration as I attach in the screen. There are three principal constructive alignment here, which is the learning objective, learning activity, and assessment task. So let's understand what it is. Learning objective. So learning objective, what should student know or be able to do? So when we say objective, the teacher will read this in the whole class before the teacher proceed to the discussion. So in this learning objective, what should student know, or what is the goal of teacher in teaching for that class session, and what will be the student will going to know, able to learn after the class session. The next, we're going to learning activities. When we say activities, how will student learn? It is depend on how the teacher will deliver his or her discussion or teaching. How will student learn? In what way? By giving an activities. So as John Biggs stated, that student can learn and construct their own knowledge by creating or by constructing their own activities. So next, we have, after the activities, learning activities, the last one is assessment task. How will learning be measured? So in this task, the teacher will give a task or ask some question to measure the learnings, to measure the knowledge of the student of what they have learned in the discussion. So that it's either the teacher will give an activity that they will perform in front of the class, or the teacher will ask some questions that will measure the understanding of the students. So the assessment task will going back to the learning objectives. If that assessment task reach the goal or has a good result, it means the learning objective has been achieved, because the learning activity here is the student will provide what they need to learn. So in assessment task, this will be the time that we will going to know if the student learn from the discussion or from the objective that we introduce before the teacher will discuss his or her discussion. So I have here a scenario in which the student need to cook, or given a task to cook a rice. So the intended learning outcome here is to cook a rice. So the goal here in this scenario is the student cook a rice. Okay, let's set aside the learning outcome. So the learning activity is cook a rice without giving procedure on how to cook a rice. So during discussion, the teacher will teach, the teacher will say to the class that you are going to cook a rice, but no other instruction, no other discussion, no other introducing a procedure on how to cook a rice. Just the teacher say that you will going to cook a rice. So that is the teaching learning activity. And then after that, the teacher will say that you will going to cook a rice. The teacher will give a task. So, this will be the assessment task. The assessment task here is to cook a rice and not to make outline how to cook a rice. So, the task here is to cook a rice. No other than just to cook a rice. That is the task here in scenario. So, in this scenario, the assessment task is aligned to the teaching learning activities. So, in this constructive alignment, wants to say that your task, or as a teacher, you need to align your assessment task or your task in the teaching activity, or what we say in your discussion, for the student avoid to confuse what they need to do, what they need to do to provide answer to the task. So to avoid student confuse how to do the task, because they know that that task is already discussed by the teacher. So that is the importance of constructive alignment. You need to align the task to the previous discussion that the teacher discussed, so that the student will use the knowledge, use the learning that they have learned from your discussion, in which they can provide answer, they can provide ideas to the task that the teacher give to them. I have here a mental exercise. In this mental exercise, we will going to know if the assessment task is aligned to the learning outcome. If not, you need to improve it to align it with the learning outcome. So I have here a learning outcome and assessment task. So I have provided 2 learning outcome and 2 assessment tasks. So first learning outcome here, or the goal, is solve a given problem. So the student will learn how to solve a given problem. And then the teacher give a task that match the column A to column B. So do you think the assessment task here is aligned to the learning outcome? Of course not, because the learning outcome here is for the student to know how to solve a given problem. But the given task is match the column A to column B, which is not aligned. So let's change the assessment task, which is maybe we will give a task that the student will solve a mathematic problem, which is they will going to add 3-digit number into 2-digit number. For example, 128 plus 28 equals. So that is the task given to that student. So by that given task, the assessment task, or the task that you've given, that we have changed, that task is aligned to the learning outcome, which is a student solve a given problem. So you need to align the assessment task into a learning outcome. Then next, we have the communication skills. So the goal here is, or the learning outcome here is, the student will know or will learn how to communicate other people, or what are the skills required to communicate other people. So, and the given task here is, what have you learned from the topic? It's not aligned, right? So we need to align it. So for example, we will give a task as a teacher. You will going to give a task, group it. The class group it by 5 group, which consists of 3 members or 4 members, and then they will going to communicate with each other, make a conversation with each other, and by that task, the student will perform the discussion that they have learned from the discussion, which is the communication skills. By that task, the task is aligned to the learning outcome. So you will going to align the task in the learning outcome. So that is constructive alignment wants to teach us. You need to align. Always remember, in constructive alignment, you need to align the assessment task into the learning outcome to avoid any confused for the student, so they can express their learnings, their ideas, and their knowledge to that task, because they already know how to answer it, because they have learned that from the discussion given by the teacher. That is constructive alignment. Yes. So I hope you learned a lot of things for today's discussion, and thank you for watching.